My friend witnessed a rejected public marriage proposal last night, which ultimately became a breakup. What are some of your worst moments of second-hand embarrassment, Reddit? Back when I used to play hockey, I must have been about 10, this kid on the other team got the puck for what appeared to be the first time ever. He was in the neutral zone, but on his team's side of the red line. He turns around and skates towards his own goalie. The goalie didn't realize what was going on. So when the kid went and took a shot, the goalie didn't try at all to stop it. Kid got what was probably the only goal of his hockey career, on his own net. Made only more embarrassing by the huge to-do over whether or not they should count it for our team, just lingering on the idea of his traitorous goal rather than letting the game get on and forget it. My husband once made a 3-pointer basket for the opposing basketball team in high school. In college, my public speaking professor told us our introductory speeches needed to have an attention-getting opener. On speech day, one of my classmates walked to the podium and said, "Guys, don't you hate it when your mom finds your pee?" The class was deathly silent. We may have gasped in unison, unsure how to react. The poor guy froze and spent the remaining speech time staring down at the podium without saying a word. The teacher didn't stop him, and none of us in the audience knew what to do. 10 years later, I teach public speaking and can't think of that day without cringing. Poor guy. If I was in the audience, I'd have shouted, "Oh my god, why yes, as loud as possible." Flight from London to New York. I'm merrily grazing on my pack of salted pretzels and reading some Harry Potter, when the guy sitting opposite pours his heart out to the flight attendant. The silly mother tells her, despite having only met an hour previously, how he thinks she's the one for him. How she's so beautiful that life without her would be as cold as a fairly chilled beverage, and how she absolutely must let him take her out on a date. The attendant obviously refuses, so the guy starts crying. I'm talking full-on bawling, to the point where he's gasping for air in between wails. Cue 6 hours of awkwardness and considerable discomfort. The foregoing is made all the more worse when you consider that it happened in business class, which was relatively small in size in comparison to the rest of the plane and had its own 2 dedicated attendants, one of whom who'd just been propositioned. Dude stopped crying later, and then just sniveled intermittently before going to sleep. Attendant was mortified though remained fairly composed. One time when I was at a party, a rather inebriated friend of mine thought it would be hilarious to pee out a second story window that was just over the back door of the house we were at. Who is walking out the door at that time, you ask? Oh, only his girlfriend, who got peed on, who proceeded to yell at him from outside. She broke up with him then, and he started bawling inconsolably with the whole of the house party watching. It cleared out pretty soon after that. At least he wasn't a party pooper. When my friends were having their child, I was asked to attend the delivery. When she was born, the father immediately accuses his wife of cheating on him, since the baby was black and they were a Caucasian Asian American couple. I stood there dumbstruck, thinking about what you say in a moment like this. Back when I was in high school, we were in the changing rooms before PE. I think we were around 15-16 years old at the time. As is usual at a school, some kids like to make fun of others, bully others, and this was no exception. There was one kid that everyone hated. He wasn't big, and you felt you could probably beat him in a fight, but he had friends, relatives that gave him the confidence to bully others. He was ripping on some kids as usual. I was just stood in the corner ignoring it all and getting change when suddenly someone runs up behind him and pulls his pants down. This happened from time to time. Everyone laughed at him, but then everyone noticed. This 16-year-old bully had no pubic hair. He instantly burst into tears and ran out of the changing rooms. The news spread around the school like wildfire, and everyone was laughing at him. He didn't come back to school after that except to take his final exams. I guarantee he hasn't shaved since. One of my co-workers then BF sent dozens of roses to the job and was standing outside playing a cute 80s song and asked her to marry him in front of everyone. She said yes of course, until she saw the ring, and threw it at him saying she deserved better than that and went back inside like nothing just happened. I was at a strip club for the first time with some of my friends. I ended up sitting next to a guy having a long conversation with this girl who was giving some other guy a lap dance. Well, As it turns out, they seem to have been in a long-term relationship before, and her turning out to be a stripper big surprise to him as he kept saying, "Wow, I can't believe you work here." He also seemed really nervous. Even worse, the guy getting the lap dance said, "Do you mind?" and the guy just got up and left, wiping his eyes. Pretty much left after that. We had a very enthusiastic physics lecturer when I was in first year of university. As way of keeping us entertained for one lecture, he decided to do the whole taking a bucket of water on a string and spinning it in a huge circle trick. This all went very well until he tried to stop it. He mistimed it and the bucket smacked him in the head and soaked him with water in front of 200 students. I wanted to die, I was cringing so badly. And here, we demonstrate the difference between theoretical physics and experimental. A couple years ago I was out at a bar with a few friends. While hanging out there we see this guy who was absolutely hammered get thrown out for throwing up on the middle of the floor. That wasn't bad part though. A couple minutes later, before they could get to cleaning up his vomit, a few girls were dancing and one slipped and fell into the guy's vomit. The girl did not see when the guy vomited a few minutes earlier, so when everyone started laughing and freaking out, she thought it would be good to laugh with everyone as to make it less embarrassing for herself. So she's laying in a puddle of vomit laughing for a good minute and a half before she finally listens to her friends telling her she's laying in vomit. At that point she turned bright red and left. It was overall a good night for me. TLDR. Watched a girl roll around in a guy's vomit and it wasn't pee. No, really Tina, you can get out of the vomit now. I attend a school that is relatively small. During our annual talent show, a very nerdy and generally unpopular girl was playing the flute. She is nice but extremely socially awkward. She was amazing and had even made state jazz band before. Halfway through her performance, about 35 people of maybe 180 got up to leave for their track and golf meets. She looked mortified and stumbled in her playing and cut out early and ran off stage. In her defense, it is extremely impolite to leave mid-performance. At the very least, they should have left at the end of the song. I was watching two actors do a scene in a competition for an acting scholarship. In the middle of their scene, one of the actors forgot his line and there was 15 seconds of total silence. You don't have to have acted before to know that freezing up on stage is the worst thing that can happen to an actor. My wife asking a very sassy woman when she was due. Lady was not pregnant, and my wife can handle her crap. I moonwalked away while the lady blew the frick up. I need a gif of this. I honestly don't get this. Marriage is something you talk about, something you plan. Why the frick do you propose if you have not talked about it with her? At a work Christmas dinner a few years ago, we witnessed one of the younger kids get pushed together by us with a girl he really liked. Oblivious to him, the entire dance floor stopped to watch him make a move on her. So many times she went in to kiss him, but he moved and just hugged her. Eventually he gave her a peck on the lips, then actually stuck his hands in the air celebrating. Now how the DJ managed to time the outro of a song to fade out just as he shouted, "I finally kissed a girl." Pretty much everybody in the place burst into laughter as he realized about all 100 of us was watching. He actually left the dinner and ran home. My roommate was 21. His girlfriend of 2 months was 18. He proposed one day and got rejected because 2 months, you silly grey duck. He then bursts into my friend's room while we are watching South Park late at night. He is bawling like crazy and he starts punching my friend, yelling at said friend to hit my roommate so that he could feel something. It was just like something out of an emo movie. It was the strangest moment that I had ever witnessed when a Guys Gone Nuts commercial came on the TV. I hope she really said the line "silly grey duck." I couldn't handle watching The Office because I was always so embarrassed for the Michael Scott character. My husband would be cracking up and look over to see me looking absurdly concerned and sometimes on the verge of tears for the poor guy. I literally get overly embarrassed for characters in movies and TV shows to the point where I cover my eyes. When I was a kid, I used to run out of the room. There was definitely a thread like this before where a guy confessed to playing Halo and crashing someone's Xbox Live Halo proposal. Funniest thing I've read in a while, but I can't find it anymore. I remember reading that. He said the guy was trying to propose and he and his 12-year-old's friends just started calling the guy RF, and then the girl left and the guy started crying. I was at this church for some non-religious event. If I can remember correctly, I think it was a milk chugging contest. Anyway, after the event everybody was still hanging around for a bit, laughing, trading stories, catching up, etc. When all of a sudden a young man in an army uniform, most likely right out of high school, gets up on the stage and begins to prepare his set of bagpipes. As everyone in the room slowly began to notice him, he preluded in stammers that he had currently completed his basic training and that he would like to share the gifts of Catholicism with all of us. The church that we were in was Baptist. Before anyone could come to the realization of what was to happen, the dreaded pipes began. A slurred composition of original mediocrities and Ozzy Osbourne covers, which were, in turn, accompanied by the appropriate, although awkward, pauses for breath. As we in the room watched in an awkward parallel, this lad took 70 persons hostage with his bagpipes, armed with the ignorance of the mass social politeness that stick at us like flies on flypaper. For 20 minutes we stood, chained like skeletons in a dungeon, until one brave man kindly nudged the bagpipe player off the stage and thanked him for the generosity of his gift. There was silence as the boy packed up his pipes and gently strolled out with the posture of one defeated by years of social anxiety. Perhaps this was the first time he had spoken in front of an audience. Perhaps it was the first time that his soul could muster up some form of show and tell in the faint hope for acceptance among his peers. And as I stood there watching a face, red and puffy with the same concentration of passing a concrete stool as it synthesized a Scottish rendition of Crazy Train, I wondered to myself if this was what purgatory was like. The worst part is that if there's pauses for breath while you're playing the bagpipes, you're playing the bagpipes wrong. The entire point of the bag is to keep the sound going while the player takes a breath. Every Thursday my neighbors host some sort of dance class for teenage girls. One Thursday night, I was standing by the front door talking to my mom. All of a sudden the door flies open and a 17-year-old girl walks straight into our house, takes several steps in and then locks eyes with me and my shocked face. She stands there for maybe 3 seconds before yelling, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry," and running out, face bright red. My dad, outside at the time, said he saw her leave our house and walk down the street to another wrong house. Anyway, we all sat silent for several minutes before saying, "Well, that was weird. At least you didn't kill her." So it's the night before my wedding and my friends and male relatives are at some seriously sketchy strip club located in a strip mall that doesn't even have a liquor license, so the Arizona iced teas are all $8. There are a couple of other bachelor parties going on at this place, and at some point one of the bachelors, the guy's name was Neil, as that detail is permanently seared into my brain for reasons that will become all too clear by the end of the story, is brought up on stage and handcuffed to a chair by an attractive dancer for a special surprise courtesy of his friends. Lucky son of a bee, I think to myself. That's when the dancer suddenly shoves the guy hard, knocking his chair over backwards so he lands flat on his back. Before he can try to get up, the girl straddles his chest, rips open his shirt, takes out a big black Sharpie, and proceeds to write "I love dong" on his chest and forehead while he tries and fails to escape. His buddies laughing their asses off the whole time and the rest of us watching in mute horror. I have no idea how much scrubbing it would have taken to get all those marks off him in time for his wedding. But holy crap, I don't think I've ever been so grateful not to be that guy in all of my life. Some 13 plus years later, my friends and I still raise our glasses to this poor fellow, to Neil. Poor bastard. Walking back to my dorm after a night of organic chemistry studying, I saw a group of girls, dressed to the nines and in their 5-inch heels, headed towards the bars or wherever. One of them walked straight into a stop sign. Just, bam. Face first. At my high school talent show, a special ed kid was singing the national anthem. A lot of people started laughing at him and he ran off the stage mid-song. Maturity level, high school. I was in Vegas a couple years ago with my friend. We were staying at the Tropicana and decided to start our day by drinking by the pool. We're sitting on the lounge chairs and a couple comes and sits on the chairs next to us. We offer him and his lady friend a beer. He graciously accepts and me, my friend, and the guy start bullshitting. From the start we could tell the girlfriend wasn't into us, especially since her boyfriend wasn't paying too much attention to her. We get another round and the girl is just So she informs the guy that she was going in the pool for a swim, implying that he should join. He's not too interested, and so she ventures into the pool alone. After a couple minutes of the death stare, he joins her in the pool. They walk a couple laps and exit the pool. We start bullshitting again. Once again the girl isn't having it and tells the guy that she's going to their room. Once again implying that he should join her. He tells her he'll be right up. She leaves, and we are finishing our conversation and waking with a guy a few feet to say our goodbyes, and the girlfriend, who is now in completely different clothes, walks ever so briskly up to him, puts a ring in his hand and says I'm through, and walks away. Me and my friend are awestruck as to what had just happened. He went after her and we didn't see them after that. I randomly wonder what happened to them that day. My first Reddit post. Hope you enjoyed my story. Sounds like that guy doesn't know when to end a conversation. Last year I was taking a drama class and was watching the other students finish up their monologues. One kid went on stage and at one point he stopped to breathe for dramatic effect. The teacher thought he forgot his lines and started turning the lights down before he started up. 15 minutes later another girl went on stage and actually forgot her lines and sat there for a good 2 minutes while everyone at the back was just looking at our teacher waiting for her to put the lights down. I hate when people get their cards declined in front of me. It's always painfully awkward. Sometimes I'll just pay for them. Not because I'm a good person. It's just that I want to make the situation stop. What's even worse is on the flip side, when you have a legit problem with your own card. Because no matter what you say, you're going to sound like the aforementioned broke butt. Like, oh, that's weird. Try it again. Will you? I know there's money on it. I guess I have to call my bank or something. And they're thinking, yeah right, douche. I've heard this one before. Come back when you can pay for your crap. A friend of mine and I watched a super drunk bro pee his pants outside of a bar and then be arrested for public drunkenness. 2 weeks later he came over to hit on my friend and me at a different bar. I recognized him and my friend did not. I was super standoffish and kept trying to end the conversation quickly, but he was adamant that we talk to him and not walk away. He got impatient with me, asked why I was being such a b, and I told him it was because I had seen him pee his pants and then be arrested and had no real want to get to know him more. He kind of stared at me and then said, you saw that? How there really is no game recovery after a girl informs you that she has seen you pee your pants. If he was smooth, he could have worked with that. Though, if he was smooth, I suppose he wouldn't have pee his pants. This lady used to come into the coffee shop I worked at pretty often, then lost her crap one day out of nowhere. Seriously, came in an hour earlier and behaved as normally as she always had. I had always had weird feelings about her. She seemed unbalanced but hadn't done too much to confirm it. Anyways, we were packed. She came in, walked near my station mumbling and shaking. Then got in line and lit a cigarette. People are instantly confrontational. She starts screaming and cursing back, steals a drink, puts her cigarette out in our water jar, lit another, sat back on a chair and started laughing madly. I point out that this is insane to the shift who's done nothing at this point but carry on, and the police are on their way at this point. One of our other employees attempts to calm her. She throws another cigarette at us. The police enter. Their station was only maybe a quarter mile from our coffee shop. They arrest her in front of our store, then spend the next 5 minutes getting her in the car, ultimately tasering her in front of maybe 60 or 70 people. Found out later she had gone off her bipolar medication, had some dark crap in her past and had likely been on other drugs at the time. Still, went from normal human to crazy person in under an hour. I'm sure she still deals with how awful this must have been, but maybe not. Another co-worker saw her throwing rocks and screaming at traffic the following day. This is the equivalent of arranging a surprise baptism for a friend you've never discussed religion with. You deserve every moment of excruciating social embarrassment you get, because that's what you've just handed them. Oh, never mind about that pool party I invited you to earlier. This happened last night actually. I was driving up to an apartment complex to drop off some of my friends after a concert. Before I let them out, a group of 4 or 5 people ran up to our car, yelling, "Hey, what's up? Thanks for the ride, you're late, etc. etc. Took them about 5 seconds to realize I wasn't their friend who came to pick them up. All of their faces went bright red and they all ran inside. Oops. I once hopped into an unmarked cop car because I thought it was a cab. Only realized my mistake after I had belted up and told the cop my destination. I was on a roller coaster and there was a fat guy trying to get on. The line was really long, so hundreds of people were watching the guy trying to put on the restraints. Then several staff trying their hardest to put them on until he finally gave up and got off. Last year at orientation for English teachers in Korea, this lasts 8-9 days, and we are assigned 2, usually female coordinators per group of 30. After 8 days, during the talent show closing ceremony, one guy asked a coordinator to marry him in front of the class of 200 plus and like 50 administrators. One of my first bands finally had our first gig lined up. We were starting off with a cover of Rem's It's the End of the World as We Know It. Family, friends, school chums, all kinds of people in the audience. The intro drum roll to the song finishes and the singer forgets the first line. The music's playing and he's just standing there, wide-eyed, staring at the back of the room. We made it through a few more measures. Then I came in with "That's great it" and he immediately picked it up from there. But man, that was awkward. We had been practicing that song for weeks. He never screwed up a line during rehearsal. Go figure. Stage fright is a B. Some people publicly propose with the idea that the resulting social pressure will turn the odds in their favor. Bad idea. Terrible idea. High school baseball game. Big game. Gotta play on a college field. Teammate and friend of mine finally gets to sub in on pitch. He's jogging out to the mound, happy as can be, everyone cheering. Then, bam, faceplant. Poor guy tripped on the mound and ate dirt. When I was in high school, this sweet, kind, petty blonde girl entered the talent show. She screamed a Linkin Park song. Anatomy professor is discussing testicles. And this isn't even the second-hand embarrassing part. Somehow discusses testicles on other animals. Asks if anyone has ever seen elephant testicles. Girl in gunner row raises her hand and proudly exclaims she has. Nope, not quite embarrassing yet. Professor asks where did you see them? Gunner girl replies confidently, well I used to teach in Thailand. And begins a little story about how awesome she is. Professor interrupts with a quizzical look. How is that possible? Male elephants don't have a visible scrotum. Class of 200 students is silenced. Oh. I was on a amusement park ride and some guy across from me was a little too big for the shoulder restraints, and for an awkward quiet 30 seconds about 40 people watch him get off ride. I could anxiety on his face. It was horrible. I've never heard anxiety used in verb form. It sounds dirty. When I was in 8th grade I moved to a new city, so new school. My neighbor, same grade, introduced me to a buddy of his as we were getting off the bus. I say hi, bell rings and I'm off to my class. 2 weeks later it's Valentine's Day and his friend shows up outside my door. He bought a huge basket filled with goodies and stuffed animals, and a bouquet of roses. He's saying he loves me and wants me to be his girlfriend. I was kinda cute, but certainly no Aphrodite. I said one word to the kid. It was just so awkward as he cried in front my door. I felt embarrassed for him, but that was quickly over once he decided to stalk me for a year. People like that give guys a bad rep, even if it's just 8th grade. That's simply too odd. I am sure the proposals that don't work and are up on the Jumbotron are fake. We used to do the bit at the stadium I worked at. It was just 2 people from promotions that would play the parts every few weeks and do the proposal that fails, and the girl would run out and the guy would look sad and the stadium would go nuts. We also did the kiss cam one where it goes around to fan couples and they would be up on the screen and kiss, and eventually it would come around to 2 dudes up on the kiss cam and then they would eventually kiss. Yeah, those dudes were 2 interns that would have to play the part. Eventually they kiss and the stadium goes nuts. That's freaked up, bro. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.